yours.
Thank you for that. It's, at least for me, it's an historic day. Good afternoon to everybody. It's great to be with you here, beginning of the year, our friends and colleagues from Latin America and the Caribbean, and so many countries. Esteemed governors and executive directors of the bank, ambassadors, members of the diplomatic corps and multilateral organizations, officials from the US, government and Congress, officials from other governments, members of academia, think tanks, private sector partners, colleagues from the IDB, IDB Invest, IDB Lab, friends. Thank you for coming and for everything you do for this great institution and the region we serve. Today, I want to start first by offering an overview of the challenges facing our region and our bank. Second, I'll discuss how we can help the region. And third, I will talk about my vision for the bank and my priorities. But before that, let me tell you why I wanted to join the IDB. People keep asking me, when I moved to the IMF, when I moved to the central bank, and now, why do you want to move? Why do you want to come? For me, it's obvious, but they keep asking me the question. And the answer is that you want to come to heed a call. What is this call? It's a motivation which is simple. It is about purpose. But I've worked in the private sector, I work in academia, and for me, a place like the IDB is the place where you can truly improve lives on a scale that you can only find in this type of institution. And I don't think improving lives is just a tagline. I believe that with hard work and the right approach, we can more effectively meet the needs and aspirations of people in the region. They deserve better jobs, safer streets, quality healthcare, faster internet, better public services, better infrastructure, and other essential elements of life that they rightly aspire to. And yes, a sense of hope in the future. And hope is very important. I can't think of any institution that can better help the region fulfill that hope than the IDB. And so, here I am, here we are, at an historic juncture for the region and the IDB. And you all know why this is an historic moment, not only for the IDB, but for the global economy. This is a time of unprecedented overlapping crisis. The first global pandemic in a century, the largest land war in Europe since World War II, highest inflation in generation, global food insecurity, energy insecurity, climate change. So the decisions we make and the actions we take will help define how the region recovers and how our people progress for, I believe, decades. The IDB was born during another period of geopolitical and economic uncertainty, the Cold War. In the 50s, like today, leaders from across the hemisphere faced multiple crises: poverty, inequality, disease, polarization. One of those leaders, one of the original architects of the IDB, was Brazilian President Juscelino Kubitschek. In 1958, just before the IDB was created, Kubitschek wrote to US President Eisenhower, urging closer hemispheric cooperation. The time has come, he wrote, to ask ourselves whether or not all of us are doing our utmost to wield the indestructible union of sentiments, aspiration, and interests called for by the graveness of the world situation. Today, Kubitschek's words have new relevance. the region faces intricate challenges. It needs to address social inequalities and immediate demands for public service while having limited resources to do so. Simultaneously, it needs to overcome decades-old structural problems to increase productivity and growth. Over the past decades, the region has grown 12 times less than emerging markets economies. And in the 5 period preceding the pandemic, while virtually everywhere else countries grew their output, our economy shrunk. During the pandemics, deficits doubled, and public debt soared. And today, as you know, rising borrowing costs and tightening global financial conditions are putting even more pressure on member countries. This makes it harder for countries to obtain the public resources they need to offer citizens the services they demand. To meet those demands, we must better prioritize available resources while accelerating growth, boosting productivity, and increasing innovation. All of which is necessary to address social issues, to tackle poverty and inequality, and in all its dimensions: inequality, gender, ethnicity, income inequality, all of those. Inequality has been a stain in our region for generations, but the pandemic hit women and vulnerable populations especially hard. Lower-income families lost 3 times as much jobs as welfare families, and women face higher unemployment rates than before the pandemic. Last year, extreme poverty likely affected 82 million people, reversing in the region a quarter-century of gains. Today, as you know, record inflation is testing families that were already teetering on the edge. In addition to these challenges, countries also need to tackle climate change that's already generating more natural disasters in the region. And you know, in the region, Central America, the Caribbean, and other places are really facing those events. Before getting to my vision and priorities, I'd like first to acknowledge the building blocks we already have and the basics we might reinforce as we begin this new chapter at the IDB. I believe that no other organization has the experience or on-the-ground presence to work with the region's countries like the IDB. You know that the presence on the ground of IDB is one of the largest of the international institutions. And has a true knowledge bank, the IDB offers unparalleled know-how for improving public policy. And yet, I believe we can do more. I told this morning to our employees, and some of you were here, I will support them. I will support them as they expand the IDB's group work in the region, as a leading source of knowledge, and as a partner of choice for innovation. I believe we have some of the best minds in terms of international development world. But only when they feel valued, respected, and heard, they can truly shine. I don't think it's just a human resource issue. It's an operational imperative. I want them to feel encouraged and enabled to co-create a better bank that meets our development effectiveness targets. I told them, I have your back. And as a president, I will appeal to their hopes and aspirations, and hope you'll see in the speeches. I'm going to repeat that. And doing so, I pledge to lead with integrity, and here again, integrity is essential, so that together we can build trust and achieve more for Latin America and the Caribbean. Now is the time to move forward. Internally, we will foster trust and openness genuinely. We'll create an environment where, starting with me, we can listen, learn, respect different approaches. This is not a place for intolerance and polarization, where we unfortunately have seen quite a bit around the world. We will start by creating an environment where we learn from our successes, but also from the failures. This calls for more dialogue throughout the bank and with you, our partners and stakeholders. Together, we can create a more effective IDB group where we nourish the co-creation of new ideas. Trust is a powerful enabler of success. It will be the bedrock of our internal work at the bank and with you. And all of this will be predicated on a commitment to meritocracy, ethics, and diversity at all levels. Let's be clear. We need a more agile and effective IDB based on solid governance. An IDB that puts our clients in the center of what we do. And this is based on a solid human capital strategy and a successful digital transformation. It is interesting that even in this context of polarization and uncertainty everywhere that we're seeing globally, there's an overwhelming consensus, one of the few consensus, that we need a stronger IDB. And I will seize upon that. I'll work upon that to fortify the IDB. So what's the vision? My vision is to build on the bank's legacy to ensure that the IDB is the most important multilateral development institution for Latin America and the Caribbean. And this has a very precise meaning. It has to be the region's most trusted partner, where policymakers, where governments come to the IDB for not only financing, but also knowledge, expertise, to find solutions, to brainstorm, to look for innovative solutions to our region's challenges. And it has to be a place where staff is proud to work. Unfortunately, it has not been always like that now, more recently, but it's going to be, I can assure you. There are three elements that are quite relevant to achieve the vision. First, the IDB needs to aspire to be far better at delivering results, effective results. And we need to be precise of what is it being effective. Effective at lifting people out of poverty, reducing all type of inequality, addressing climate change, productivity, more growth, creating opportunities for member countries. Our work will be driven by data and evidence. That's how I know how to do, looking at data and evidence. And let me give you one data. In 2021, just 53% of completed IDB projects evaluated by the Independent Office of Evaluation and Oversight received a positive rating, just 53%. We can and should do better. But this requires better measuring, providing the right incentives, having the right processes, including controls, and the right policies. It means partnering closely and creatively with also the private sector to mobilize capital and effectively impact development. In the end, what truly matters is not only how many loans we approve, or even how much we lend, this is important, but what is paramount is tangible, measurable development impact. Because of that, I intend to spearhead a bank-wide effort to deliver more effective results. We need to be efficient internally too, ensuring that our work is not duplicated, fragmented, siloed, so that we can actually address the region's problems. Second, key to achieving the vision is continuing to grow private sector operations. We plan to advance the mandates for reforms at the IDB Invest, IDB Lab, that our Board of Governors approved last year, providing plans that allow us to unlock the great potential. We must ensure, though, that this private sector operation effectively impact development, providing public goods across the region. It's not enough that these projects generate positive returns and good returns. They do have to generate some public good if it is for the IDB to be involved. Third, we need to use and leverage our existing capital. Better use. As a group, we need to ensure that we are using our capital to maximize its impact consistent with the adequacy guidelines. And then we plan the future growth of the group in this solid basis. Let me talk now about the vision for the region. The vast natural resources and entrepreneurial spirit of Latin America and the Caribbean offers enormous potential. We need to unlock it sustainably. Our vision includes positioning Latin America and the Caribbean as a space for solutions, new solutions to global challenges. For example, food insecurity, clean energy. If we produce more clean energy more efficiently in the region, we'll benefit the region, but also countries and regions, helping the world edge closer to meeting Paris climate goals. We have our Amazon initiative, which, being Brazilian, has a special symbol. We need to push for that. Aim to empower, for example, indigenous communities while promoting forestation, the bioeconomy, sustainable farming. All of this will benefit countries in the region, while also helping the world protect biodiversity and address global warming. When we help countries lower trade and transportation costs, we reduce the price of food, and alleviate food insecurity in the region and globally. We also believe the IDB is particularly suited to promoting physical and digital projects that will boost regional integration. It has to be an international organization, a regional institution, that has the comparative advantage to joining projects cross countries. It is easier for countries to do them nationally, but it's a comparative advantage of IDB to bring them together in projects that generate a regional integration. Our vision includes support for policy that boosts productivity and promote inclusive growth. You've seen the numbers I told you in terms of growth, decades growth in Latin America. We need to take full advantage of our region's rich diversity. We need to think more creatively about new developments that redefine old problems. For example, and that's the only example I have of projects, but we have many, many of them. We just recently launched the ChatGPT, which is an extraordinary new artificial intelligence chatbot. And what it tries to answer is how can we help the region ensure that people have the right skills to thrive in this new era. Let me tell you about an underlying value that underpins all this vision. We need to promote rule of law and defend our democratic institutions. And you have seen recently in the region, in my own country, this is something that we need to build in all our policies and our projects. So, as some of you may have heard, I have said before about my priorities. I've said that when everything is a priority, nothing is. I will reveal you that when we were writing the speech, everybody came and said, why don't you put more on that? Don't forget to put X and Y, and the speech gets wider and wider, and at some point I said, well, when everything is a priority, nothing is a priority. So here are my priorities in the following areas. We will discuss the priorities as part of the elements of a more institutional view. So those are just inputs for a discussion that I hope the bank will have in the future. First, we are emphasizing social issues. This is core for the IDB, has been forever. That includes poverty, inequality in several dimensions, health needs, food insecurity, all of which are related. That's the core, has been there, but have you seen the demand of societies, the demand of population are increasing to get this solved, or at least improved. There was a massive decline of income inequalities in the 2000s. But then inequality still remains incredibly high in the region. In Latin America and the Caribbean, the income gap between the top and bottom 10% was twice as big as similarly developed countries before the pandemic. If we don't act boldly, the impact of recent schools closings could permanently widen income inequality and education levels for an entire generation of children. In the region, 20 million people are poor, and 60 million face hunger. Just last week, the UN reported that global food prices had surged and are the most expensive they have seen since the 1990s. So the first priority, the social issues. The second one is climate. We must make it easier to invest in climate mitigation and adaptation, and more ambitiously, help countries responsibly meet targets. Today, our region experiences 3 times more destructive climate events per decade than 50 years ago. And those events cause about 10 times more economic damage. We must be more responsive, agile, and creative to deal with them. Global warming is already here. It's already in the region. Third, we must invest more in sustainable physical and digital infrastructure and boost productivity. Between 2008 and 2017, Latin America and the Caribbean put just 2.8% of GDP into infrastructure. That's half what East Asian Pacific countries invested. In addition to the traditional work of building bridges and ports, we need to invest more in capital, in digital infrastructure. Today, our mobile broadband speeds can be 10 times slower than in OECD countries. That impedes growth, but it's also an opportunity for us. Investing in digital infrastructure will not only improve connectivity, but also public services, educational opportunities, and small business growth. And to help address these priorities, we plan to boost and elevate the role of 2 all-important areas throughout the IDB group. One is climate, and the other one is gender, diversity, and inclusion. We will make this central at the IDB. Let me end by saying we are just at the beginning, and I don't have all the answers. But after the challenge we face, as well as my vision for the IDB and the region and our priorities, one thing I can tell you, I'm eager to start leading this institution. And I believe that successful leadership is collaborative leadership. One of the challenges the world and our region faces is the lack of dialogue and increased polarization. We have let our differences overshadow our common interests. We need to have an IDB that bridges difference, that looks for consensus when it's possible. As an IDB president, I plan to seize all opportunities for dialogue, both within the region, with regional and non-regional members, between small, medium, and large countries, between South, Central, and North American countries. I will also try to promote greater dialogue with very important private sector partners, think tanks, and civil society. So this is a call for you. At this time of polarization and uncertainty, our future depends on not being confrontational, but on being more collaborative. The IDB will stand out not for imposing our views on others, but for valuing different opinions. We will succeed by inspiring dialogue and transparency that foster trust and promote prosperity. I think you have seen my Twitter account. I don't tweet. I was obliged to tweet. There was a tweet that went viral. Somebody much fatter and much bald than me, and everybody believed it's me. So the next day I had to do something, so I said, how do I tweet it? Tell me. So I said, well, unfortunately, this nice dancer had all these dancing skills, but it's not me. But we can all learn something from him. I want all of us to take some inspiration from that guy and to bring some enthusiasm and agility to the IDB. Together we can re-energize the IDB and better fulfill our noble mission. The region is counting on our energy, ability, and passion to take this bank to the next level. So today, I ask you to please join me. Join me in dialogue and collaboration. Join me in being inspired by what we can accomplish together. Join me in working to bring out the best in the bank and the region. Join me in working to improve the lives of millions of people that we might never meet, but who are counting on us. The IDB's challenges and the region's biggest problems weren't created overnight, and we won't solve them in a day. I told employees this morning that this is managing expectations. So I ask for your help. I also ask for your patience and persistence. Patience, but persistence. But today, we also have an incredible opportunity to, at the outset, elevate expectations for the future and to create hope, and I believe we are starting to do so. Decades ago, when Brazil's President Kubitschek wrote to President Eisenhower, he asked if they were doing their utmost to unite the region, to help it overcome its challenges, and to fulfill the aspirations of its people. Today, I ask you to join me in heeding Kubitschek's call. Join me so that together we can ensure that we are doing our utmost for our people and our region. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.